Welcome back, everyone, to another week of Three Wide. This time, we're going over all the action from Martinsville Speedway, where Kyle Larson he gets the grandfather clock. But we're mainly going to be going over the main story of Sunday's race, which was the racing itself, how this new short track package fared on Sunday, as well as some strong runs by Stewart Haas Racing and Todd Gilliland. We're also going to be talking about the Xfinity Series race where Hunter Nemechek takes Joe Gibbs Racing to victory lane yet again. And of course, Friday night's truck race, which was full of action for it to be a rain shortened race, as we will discuss the controversy surrounding Carson Hocevar, and we will look ahead to this weekend's race at Talladega Super Speedway. And I'll get started on this episode of Three Wide. So Friday night, we had the Truck Series kick things off in what was a wet day at the track. For the first time ever, we had rain tires, wet tires, treaded tires, whatever you want to call them, be used in racing competition at an oval. It's been tested several times before over the years. This was our first time seeing it in action on the track. NASCAR didn't want to dive in head first. They decided to take their time. They got the track as close to dry without it being dry as they could. Before they sent the trucks out there, they didn't want to send them out there with it too wet and just have a complete mess on their hands. The test it worked out good. These tires made a big difference. Of course, they fell off very quickly because the track dried so quick. They only made it about 25 laps on the wet tires before they came to pit road. But expect from here on out NASCAR to get more and more bold with putting these tires on and starting out on a wetter surface. Now, this is, I think, a huge win for NASCAR. Now they can implement it further at more short tracks if they need to. And if it'll cut off 30 minutes of drying time and allow you to get more laps in the race before another storm comes up, or possibly ending that much sooner so you don't have pit crew members, fans out there later than you would like to see a race. And the only thing I think they could take away from it is, dry pit road. That a lot of time got wasted at the beginning for trying pit road because they didn't really go over it uh, before the race started, and that led to a longer caution flag before they could get in there and get the stops done. But the winner of the race, Corey Heim, his third career win, first with Tricon, he beats his former owner Kyle Busch, and this was a very impressive race with Corey. Corey is obviously, the next big star of the Toyota Racing Development family. Him and debuting William Sawalich, it just seems like those are the two guys that are going to get the most, looked at from Toyota moving forward. Especially anytime they put a guy out there as young as William at 16 years old, he's got to be a high priority for this team. But solid night overall for Toyota. They got the win with Corey. I wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe be one and done as far as full-time seasons in the trucks. Zane Smith, Kyle Busch, they had, quite the battle throughout the night. Ty Majeski, who has been quietly the strongest guy throughout the season already, gets a fourth place finish. Tanner Gray, Gray, they get a fifth place and an eighth place finish respectively. Matt DiBenedetto with a seventh. Chase Purdy, a 10th, continues his strong season. A lot of guys that either continued their strong runs or were needing one, they got what they needed. Jake Garcia, another young driver, he's making his first start at Martinsville in the trucks. He finishes 13th. A lot of youth up at the front of these Craftsman Truck Series races. And, of course, the big storyline from this race was Carson Hocevar. He had contact, with William Sawalich. At one point, it was a little after past lap 100. Coming out of a corner, Sawalich had given him a little bump coming out of the corner, and I don't know if that knocked him into Ben Rhodes or if Hocevar thought it did, because there was contact between Hocevar and Rhodes slightly. But as they're going down the front straightaway, you saw Hocevar swing to the left and make an aggressive move, nearly wreck Sawalich in front of the field going into turn one. William was able to make one heck of a save going through turns 1 and 2 and hang on to it. Caution fell just shortly after it. And at that restart is when we had the big blow up with Hocevar. Coming out of turn one, you had them three wide, Matt DiBenedetto on the outside, Hocevar in the middle, and Taylor Gray on the inside. And, you know, as you would expect, 3 wide at Martinsville, fenders are going to get beat in, contact is going to be made, and Taylor Gray ended up cutting Hocevar's left rear tire. No intent, but just short track racing. And right after that, Hocevar kind of had it straight, and then you see his truck go dead left, like he was trying to right rear Taylor Gray across the track in front of the competition. And you did have some people saying, could it be Hocevar had a flat tire, didn't have any control over his car? Absolutely, that's a possibility. That's not out of question. And that was presented to me by Daniel Vining of Pixelated Speed. And and I like following Daniel. He's one of my favorite people to watch, to see his post during a race, because he will come in with the opposite mindset, the opposite thought. Whereas you may have a majority of people over here, like in this case, Hocevar, everybody was immediate, including myself, to pile on and say, this is ridiculous. What is he doing? As a dirty move. And you had Daniel out there posting, well, could have been because of his tire. And I told him absolutely it could have. But with all that Josafar has done in just the past year and a half in this truck series, it's hard to give him the benefit of a doubt. He's had several incidents where he has spun himself out to get a caution because something happened, whether it be a tire went flat, or like at Talladega, he had issues where he went off the pace and he spun out just past the start finish line. He's done it multiple times, as well as wrecking other drivers. Most notably, Colby Howard last year at IRP, turning him head on into the wall going into turn one. And that was a blatant right rearing. And anytime you're going to right rear somebody on the track, I don't believe you should be out there. You should be parked for the rest of the race that they're running, and possibly for the next one, like we saw last year with Bubba Wallace. And, you know, Hocevar, he has so much talent and is such a great personality for the sport. Fans this time last year were, he was one of the most popular drivers in the truck series. And since last season, it just seems like his popularity has just went down and down and down, and it's because of deals like this. I mean, here's just a short track incident, and it looks like Hocevar can't control himself, can't control his emotions. Something doesn't go his way, he's just going to, pitch a fit and try to right rear somebody. And you cannot do that in this sport, especially if you expect your career to progress through the ranks. I mean, when you do stuff like this, owners in the Xfinity and the Cup Series are going to look at it and say, you know what, it's just not worth signing him on for, the controversy and the drama and the headache that it would bring, unless Nice Motorsports is going to move up with you through the ranks. Now, could Hocevar, turn the page and become, much more, make more mature decisions? Absolutely. That is not out of the question, but he's going to have to do it real quick, because it's getting to the point where more and more people are going out of their, out against Hocevar. So he's going to have to do some image repair really quick, and he's got to come out with some kind of state. I haven't seen any comments from him after the race. It's just not coming great. This is a kid who just won his first race a couple weeks ago, and even that was in controversial fashion, not in my eyes, but into several fans. And you know, you're not Kyle Busch, who's out there winning week in and week out. You're not Denny Hamlin or Ross Chastain. Those guys can get away with some stuff just because of their stats, more than you can. You haven't reached that level yet. When you're already showing these kind of poor choices before even hitting a great amount of its success, it's not a good look for owners from the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series. Looking down to drivers they want to bring up. They want drivers like Corey Heim, like Zane Smith, like Ty Majeski, who overall keep it clean. They go out there and they win. They're a threat to win week in and week out. So it'll be interesting to see if Hocevar has any comments the next race weekend. But yeah, it's going to be real interesting to watch. His how other drivers race him throughout the rest of the season, because that they have got to be running out of patience. He hasn't really picked on anyone, that's up running up front, one of the front runners. Colby Howard had a decent year last year, but still was not a week in and week out top 10, top five driver. And obviously, Swalich, this is his one start. I don't know how many more he'll have this season. Now, Taylor Gray, that deal that could be interesting. The Gray brothers, they don't necessarily play those kind of games, and they're week in and week out drivers, and they'll be drivers that Hocevar is going to be around. So it'll be interesting to see how they race them going forward. Now, Saturday, we had the Xfinity Series race where John Hunter Nemechek just put on a clinic. He was very strong in this race, winning after leading 198 of the 250 laps. Sammy Smith, he finishes in second. Joe Gibbs Racing in their Xfinity Series short track program, they really seem to be on point and know what they're doing. Cole Custer gets, a strong third place finish after starting in first, led a few laps, and would have been interesting to see if there was another late restart, if he could have got up there and mixed it up, because he's wanting to win. And if he's put in that situation, it would have been interesting to see how he would have react. Josh Berry, Brandon Jones. No surprise they had solid finishes at Martinsville. Josh Berry fourth, Brandon Jones fifth. This was Brandon Jones' first top five, first top 10 with Junior Motorsports this season. I said last week, this is going to be the track where he can go out and have a chance to win, or at least come away with a solid finish to try and get this season turned around for him. And Derek Kraus, another top 10 in that 10 car for Colleague Racing. You got to think with runs like this that he is going to get more and more serious of a look to run full time next season, possibly for Colleague Racing in this 10 car if they can get the sponsorship secured. And like I said last week, it's like Haley Deegan. I think she could do much better in the Xfinity Series than the Truck Series. Derek Kraus, he was decent in the Truck Series. He would have good runs, but never was got it on a consistent basis. Here he is, and he's getting his second top 10 so far this season, and is looking like a completely different driver in the Xfinity Series. Brett Moffitt finishes in ninth. Another great run for this team. Their first year in the Xfinity Series, and Brett Moffitt continues to show how underrated of a driver he is. It seems like anything he gets in, he can get the most out of it and come away with some solid finishes. And this could be a very good partnership between Brett Moffitt and this AM Racing. Some other solid finishers. You had Parker Retzloff finishing 11th after starting in fourth. A good qualifying run for Parker, and his teammate Jeb Burton finishes in 14th. So two top 15s for Jordan Anderson Racing. Not too bad of a day for them. Um, you had Sheldon Creed have some words for Colleague Racing post race. He was running up there right at the top 10 on the last lap. He gets spun out on the back straightaway. There was some hard racing going on between Truex, Retzloff, Chandler Smith, and they made contact. Sheldon got the worst of it, and Sheldon's getting a little bit more and more vocal now. He keeps running into these incidents, not of his own making, and he gets the bad end of the deal where he's not getting the results he should have. And props to Sheldon, because I would figure he'd be one to go out there and say, "Okay, I'm going to wreck you back immediately." He's held his own here very well as far as his temper and his words, but you can see the frustration building, and it should. I mean, Sheldon has had a lot of good runs get spoiled due to somebody else knocking him out of the way. Sheldon said in a post race interview he's been trying to work on himself and racing cleaner, making better decisions and improve on himself. And he has. You see him being more consistent this year. The results don't show it, but he's been more consistent running up front, and that'll pay off eventually. But I think before he can get to that next level, he's going to have to put his foot down and stand his ground against somebody, whoever it is next, that knocks him out of the way or that puts him in a bad spot on the track. Uh, you had Sam Mayer get into another incident with a Joe Gibbs Racing driver. Y'all remember last year, very, memorable was him and Ty Gibbs on pit road, where Ty Gibbs was throwing haymakers at Sam, who didn't have a helmet on. Ty left his helmet on. It was quite a scene. This year it was with Ryan Truex, and you had Mayer get wrecked by Truex. I think it was just kind of a short track racing case. Don't think there was any intent on Truex's part, but Sam Mayer don't forget, and he remembers all his incidents with Ty Gibbs especially, but the Joe Gibbs Racing drivers, and gave a little your number one sign to Ryan Truex under the caution, which I was listening to Truex's radio, and he says he didn't even see it. But Sam Mayer, and he gave a short interview once he got out of the infield care center. Basically, he has nothing nice to say for the Joe Gibbs Racing driver. So frustration building there for Sam, and what I'm sure was going to be a good race for him. He's really good at these short tracks, and I think would have had a very good run on Saturday. But you had this deal with Ryan Truex on the track, so Sam not too happy there, and you got to think the frustration's kind of starting to build. He started off the season, you know, so great after the crash at Daytona, finishing second in Fontana and seventh in Las Vegas. And he's still having some decent finishes, a ninth at Atlanta, a seventh at Coda, but back to back weeks with not stellar performances, he's looking to try and take that next step, get to that next level, much like Sheldon Creed with Richard Childress Racing. So before we get started on this week's episode of Three Wide, let me tell you about our presenting sponsor, Hunt to Harvest. Now, Hunt to Harvest is back with us for our second season here at Three Wide, and right now, if you head over to hunttoharvest.com, you can check out their new spring 2023 selection, where they have plenty of design choices for turkey hunting, as well as different types of fishing. Also, they still have that mystery box special going on where you can get 3 shirts chosen at random sent to you for just $33. And with the high quality shirts you're getting at $11 a piece, you can't find that kind of deal anywhere else. So head on over to hunttoharvest.com where you can update or upgrade your hunting apparel. And when you go to checkout, be sure to enter that promo code RADNEY18923. That's RADNEY 18923 to get even more savings at checkout at hunttoharvest.com. Now, on Sunday, we had the big show, the Cup Series race at Martinsville, where Kyle Larson gets his first win at the track, gets his first grandfather clock. This was Hendrick Motorsports, their 28th win at the track overall. This has definitely been their best track over the course of their career. And Larson really won it on pit strategy. He wasn't, a race winning contender by any means. He did finish, ninth and 10th in the first 2 stages. But due to some late race pit calls after a late caution, you had drivers like Logano, Denny Hamlin, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and I believe William Byron may have been another driver. I'm not sure that I can't remember that stayed out. And trying to get some track position, stayed out on old tires. Kyle Larson came in and got 2 tires and was able to get the lead from Logano and set sail from there. Now, Martin Truex Jr., he made a heck of a run at the end. He restarted just, about 15th, 14th, 15th, and got those fresh tires, shot forward, finished third, and looked to be the guy. If we had a late caution there at the end or we went to overtime, I think Truex was going to be the guy to beat. He was running so fast there at the end. It was very impressive. He's wanting to get back to victory lane. And if he could just keep, a positive mindset and keep pushing forward, he should be in victory lane very soon. Martinsville is one of his better tracks, one of his best tracks on the schedule. So, he was coming out of there happy to come away with at least a top 3 finish. The big discussion post race was this race much better? Did this aero package with the new next gen car make any difference whatsoever? You had drivers like Denny Hamlin, who was very vocal against it, saying this is the new NASCAR. You just simply can't pass out there. And several media members, fans, they were all alike. Some fans were going on that basically making it sound like this is the end of the sport. This is the end of short track racing. NASCAR has ruined it with this next gen car. I want to tell everyone, take a breath, pump your brakes. If you look at the stats, this race had more green flag passes than any other race since 2015, the spring race at Martinsville. This race was one of the more competitive Martinsville races we've seen from a passing standpoint. Now, Denny Hamlin, have been vocal on social media, especially today, talking with a writer for NASCAR.com. And Denny asked basically, does this include green flag pit stops? Does this count in the tally, which was confirmed that is the case? And even still, if your argument is it doesn't matter because of the green flag pit stops, you have to put that in to last year's races, which were abysmal on the short tracks, especially Martinsville. Last year, Martinsville, the fall race didn't even get over 1,000 passes in the whole race, 500 laps. Yet, it's memorable because you had Christopher Bell's walk-off win to go to the final round of the playoffs, and of course, what will be a historic moment in NASCAR forever, constantly highlighted, is the Hail Melon, where Ross Chastain rode the wall coming around to the checkered flag in turns 3 and 4. Outside of that, that race was not memorable. None of the short track races were last season. This was the most competitive Martinsville race we've seen in the past, what was it, 8 years? So it's still a step in the right direction. Is there still work to be done? Absolutely. I think now NASCAR needs to focus on the tires, the shifting through the corners, and the horsepower. Denny went very in depth on his podcast. It was a lot of great information, like how when NASCAR started tinkering with the horsepower and taking it away, how much it would affect lap times, tire wear, everything. And makes a great point. Without the horsepower, they're not getting the wheel spin off the corners like they used to. You're not seeing as much tire wear. Then he said you would see some of us running our, fastest laps 40 laps into a run, which at a track like Martinsville shouldn't be happening. So if they can come back with a tire compound for the fall race in Martinsville that can, have more wear to it, I think they'll put on a much better race than we saw uh, Sunday. Now, with that being said, also the shifting in the corners where drivers they could overshoot the corner, miss it, and they just grab a gear and they straighten it up and it's like nothing happened. That needs to be changed too. There has to be a penalty for over driving your car, for wheel hopping it, and we're just not seeing it right now. Elton Sawyer, the vice president of competition for NASCAR, as far as the engines go with the horsepower, he said that's not going to be something they can change quickly. That's going to be something that takes quite a bit of time to do. Hopefully, they are looking at that and ready to make those changes. But I think for Bristol and Richmond, we'll be fine this fall because it'll be one of the hottest times of the year at these tracks. Tracks are going to be slick and hot. That'll help with tire wear. But with it being so cold when they run Martinsville in the fall, they have to come up with a different tire so that we can, have a much better race. And staying on the tires, like you look at Sunday's race, and you saw a little bit of the best of both worlds or worst of both worlds, depending on how you look at it. You had Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. stay out for the final, what was it, 40 laps, 45 lap run to the checker flag. And Joey Logano was able to hold on to the lead for a little bit, finished in second. Denny Hamlin really didn't gain or lose anything. He finished in fourth. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. finished in eighth. That should not happen if you're having the proper tire wear. If anything, those guys should have sunk straight to the back and probably been lapped by the time the checker flag falls. On the flip side of that, you saw with fresh tires like Martin Truex Jr. and Chase Elliott, they were able to make some incredible drives forward through the field to get top 10 finishes. Chase Elliott came from below the top 20, able to finish in 10th. Martin Truex Jr., as I said, he started the restart in 14th, 15th, finished in third, and looked like the fastest guy on the track. So we're right there at it. I feel like the results are right there. We just got to keep working at it, and we need to take a breath, not go to extreme, reactions that, oh my God, this is the end of short track racing as we know it. Let's just take a breath and move and look forward to the next one and trust the process that we got in front of us and that the drivers in the garage, the crew chiefs, everyone is making enough noise to keep the pressure on NASCAR to make these moves. Looking at some of these finishers before I get off Stewart-Haas Racing, I want to point out first Chase Briscoe finishes in fifth, was the highest finishing Stewart-Haas Racing driver. Eric Almirola finished in sixth. Last year, he did finish in the top 10 in the spring race. So he's got it going for the spring Martinsville races. Then you have Ryan Preece in 15th and Kevin Harvick in 20th. Those two finishers, where they ran, how they ran, that is not a true good comparison. Ryan Preece started on the pole, was the dominant car for the first 135 laps that he led. Ryan Preece was the guy. He had the speeding pit road penalty, and he just could not make up that track position, which again comes back to the whole passing and tire wear and everything that needs to be addressed. But Preece looked like he belonged in the Cup Series at the first part of this day. If he doesn't get that speeding penalty, I don't know if anyone gets around him. I don't know if anybody beats him. He might get his first career win. Kevin Harvick, he was up there in the mix, running up in the top, 4 or 5 for a good chunk of the race. He won stage two and had a wheel break there in the final stretch of it, and that put him back to 20th place finish. And like I said, it doesn't truly show how strong they were. Stewart Haas Racing, they looked like they were back to their old selves at this race, and what that means going forward, I'm not sure. Chase Briscoe, he's showing a lot more speed these past few weeks. He's been up front around a lot more than he has been, and that's good. That's what you want to see from Chase, is taking that next step. Eric Almirola has been solid for Stewart Haas Racing. When they're at the top of their game, man, he looks like a driver. And we know he's coming to the end of his career, whether it's this year, whether it's next year, I'm not sure. So he's definitely going to be wanting to get out there and get another win to get himself another playoff spot. Kevin Harvick, he's going to win before we get to the playoffs. There's no problem there. Ryan Preece, I can't believe I overlooked him on my fantasy lineup. I looked at it before I did my YouTube short, and I thought, man, I should really add Ryan Preece to it, but I held off. He looked like, like I said, he belonged in the Cup Series. Like, there was a reason he got the Stewart Haas Racing ride. He showed it Sunday. Look for him going forward. We're about to go to Talladega. He is great on super speedways. Then I look ahead to tracks like New Hampshire, Bristol, when we go back to Martinsville in the fall. These are tracks that, Nashville, where he's won the past 2 years in the Truck Series. He's got some solid tracks coming up for him that I think fit in his wheelhouse, in his experience. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him win one to get him in. So it's going to be this is going to be a team to watch after we get through Talladega. Is Stewart House Racing? Are they on the rebound? Are they coming back? Or is this just a case of Martinsville being one of their stronger tracks and they were able to, take advantage of it and have a good solid day? Another driver I want to talk about is Todd Gilliland. And Todd Gilliland has been on a tear this season with Front Row Motorsports, especially ever since the news broke that basically he was not going to, do a full time run with Front Row Motorsports this season. He's going to have to make some starts for Rick Ware, as long as making starts for a third car for Front Row Motorsports. He finished 17th at Fontana with Front Row Motorsports. Goes to jump forward to Atlanta, finishes 15th there. 10th at Coda, 15th at Richmond, 8th last week at Bristol Dirt, was running as high as battling for second place. And not just on a fluke, he was up there going wheel to wheel with Almirola, Kevin Harvick, Daniel Suarez. He was putting in some work and was running in sixth place and had some engine issues that knocked him back to 25th, qualified in 13th. He is showing some great promise here over these past few weeks, and is definitely going to be a dark horse guy to watch at Talladega, and a guy you're going to have to keep an eye on as we go through the schedule. If he keeps running these top 15s, right at the top 10s, and we have something crazy happen with a caution or a pit strategy, he's got nothing to lose. His team has nothing to lose. They can go throw a Hail Mary, and they have shown the speed that it could benefit them, and they could come away with an upset win. So props to Todd. He is definitely stepping up his game since the whole, he wasn't going to be around the whole season for Front Row Motorsports, showing he belongs. And I'm sure giving them, thoughts about what to do with him, here in the near future. I said before the season started, I think Todd Gilliland and Zane Smith are the future of this team and the two drivers that can take them to that next level, much like Martin Truex Jr. was for Furniture Row. Now, am I saying Front Row is going to be this championship contending team and all? Not necessarily. It wouldn't surprise me. Zane is a great driver. Todd is showing some growth. I think they could be more consistent with playoff appearances for wins, and it could be, finally the arrival of Front Row. Front Row Motorsports. So Todd Gilliland's going to be the dark horse that you will have to watch this week at Talladega. I think him and Ryan Preece are going to be looking for a win this Sunday, especially with the strong runs they had and what could have been at Martinsville on Sunday. And that'll wrap up this week's episode. As always, thank you for joining me and listening along. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button to wherever you're listening to this from. Also, you can see in the description below a link to my Rumble and YouTube channels, and you can click on those, whichever is your preference. Subscribe there so you know when our new content is dropped. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their week. Be sure to go check out our sponsor, HunterHarvest.com. Let them know we sent you, and we will meet same time next week, go over all the action from Talladega Super Speedway.